Good morning. Welcome to our daily devotion. It is Saturday, March 13th. Can you believe this month is almost half over already? Oh my goodness. I want to thank those of you that stay committed to these videos. There's many of you that are just so loyal. Appreciate every single one of you. I really appreciate those of you that share them to get the word out to more and more people. Good morning, Mary. Morning, Marcy. We're in Matthew. I'm going to read chapter 12, verses 9 through 14. It says this, going on from that place, he went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, they asked him, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? He said to them, if any of you had a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a man than a sheep? Therefore it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. Then he said to the man, stretch out your hand. So he stretched it out, and it was completely healed, just as sound as the other. But the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus. Wow. Now, first thing I want you to notice is that Jesus taught in the streets, as we were reading the last few days. And he also taught in the churches and the synagogues. As I've told you before, he was allowed to teach in the synagogues because he was a Jewish rabbi. Good morning, Patty. Good to see you. Good morning, Alicia. Morning, Pat. As a Jewish religious leader, he was very critical of the other religious leaders, of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the rabbis, the priests. He was one of them. He understood what it meant to be a religious leader, and he saw how they were reacting, how they were leading the people. They were supposed to lead the people in the ways of the Lord. That's what their job was. But they were extremely critical of Jesus. It's interesting here in James 3:1. It says, "Not many of you should presume to be teachers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly." It's like when you are a teacher, you're capable of misleading people. If you have a following, and the Pharisees, of course, did, they were able to turn the Jews against Jesus. They were able to turn the Jews against the apostles, as we're studying now in the book of Acts in our Bible studies. So they were able to mislead people. You see that all the time today. How many times do you see of a religious leader, a television evangelist, or someone that goes off the deep end and causes all kinds of problems, gives Christianity an extremely bad name? In Romans 2:21 and 24, God tells us this. You then who teach others, do you not teach yourself? You who preach against stealing, do you steal? You who say that people should not commit adultery, do you commit adultery? You who harbor idols, do you rob temples? You who brag about the law, do you dishonor God by breaking the law? As it is written, God's name is blasphemed among the Gentiles because of you. It's like we give Christianity, some people give Christianity a bad name. Morning, Grace. Do you give Christianity a bad name? So the main thing here is that we're reading today is they're again criticizing Jesus for healing on the Sabbath. Jesus uses an example of rescuing a sheep if it fell into a pit. We as Christians, we will be criticized also, okay? If they criticize Jesus, we'll be criticized also. Christians are notorious for throwing their convictions on other convictions. Some think it and many voice it. I've had Christians that voice criticism, believe it or not, about me singing secular songs when we were meeting with Collision. I've actually had some that refused to come back to Collision because I sang a secular song, or I had the worship leader sing a secular song. When we were reaching the lost, when I was using secular bands to reach the lost, uh, they weren't just voicing their criticism. There were people out from the church out front boycotting what we were doing, literally boycotting, standing in front, marching in front of the church, boycotting what we were doing, because they thought that it was secular, even though we were reaching the lost. So here's Jesus being criticized by the religious leaders because he was healing somebody on the Sabbath, and not just criticizing, looking for a way to have him put to death because of what he was doing. So I'm convinced that if you're doing God's work, expect to get criticized, even by other Christians. Uh, Listen, Dandy gets criticized. Dandy gets criticized because he supports the local police department. There's a bunch of people that voice their criticism of him. Dawn gets criticized for feeding the homeless by some people saying that she's enabling the homeless and they'll never get off the street as long as she keeps feeding them. Think of the ministry that Dandy and Dawn are doing. We support that ministry, and you support it generously, and yet there's Christians that are very vocal about their criticism of what they're doing. And it's interesting that most times criticism comes from the people that aren't doing anything. They're not doing anything, but they're very critical of what we're doing. In John 15:20, it says, "Remember the words I spoke to you," Jesus said. "No servant is greater than their master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. If they criticize me, they will criticize you also." So don't get into ministry. Don't get into ministry if you're not willing to be criticized, okay? And there's a saying, it says, don't accept criticism from anyone that you wouldn't go to for advice. You hear that? If someone criticizes what you're doing, but you would look at that person and think, well, I would never go to you for advice, then let it brush it off your shoulder. Brush it off your shoulder. Now, if someone criticizes you that you respect, that you would go to for advice, then now take heed. Take heed. Because maybe, just maybe, you are doing something wrong. So there's nothing wrong with accepting criticism if it's coming from someone that you respect. At least talk it out. Hash it out. How much time do I have? I've just recently received some great news. There's a church in our area here that is said that when the pandemic is over and we're allowed to meet right now, you can meet inside. We're going to be able to meet inside, but it has to be at 25% capacity. There can be no singing, so we're not ready yet. But when we are ready, there's a church that's willing now to rent space to us. But it'll be on a Sunday night. I know that I'm going to get criticism from many people for switching over to Sunday night. It's going to be like, oh, why are we doing that? Now again, I've tested the waters. I've already talked to some of our overseers. I've already talked to find out how they feel about it. So I respect the people that I respect, but I'm going to get some criticism from others. I just know that I'm going to. If you do sound, you're going to get criticized. If you lead a children's ministry, you're going to get criticized. If you're a worship leader, you're going to get, I think they get criticized more than anybody. I had someone that I respect a long time ago, Lauren Van Wadenberg, that said that when Satan fell from heaven, when he was thrown out of heaven, he landed in the choir loft, because it just seems like all controversy seems to center around the worship in a church. So criticism is just a part of ministry. And if you don't believe that, ask Jesus. Because here's Jesus being criticized. Who? Not just by the people, being criticized by the religious leaders. So if you, I hope many of you have a desire to get into ministry, but if you get into ministry, be ready. Hey, Patty, thank you. Appreciate the good news. Yeah, we don't know when it's going to be. I don't want to say the church yet, but it's a fantastic church. They have incredible facility, and we are excited. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a whole new direction for Collision. Whole new direction. I'll talk more about it maybe tomorrow in our Sunday message. But it's going to be a whole new direction for Collision. It's almost like a reboot, like starting over again. I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm hoping that people will be excited enough to be a part of this also. So I hope God spoke to you, especially for those of you that are involved in ministry. I hope that more of you have a desire to be a part of ministry. As we do, when we do start our new endeavor, we're going to need plenty of help to do what we want to do. So I'm praying that people will step forward and really be excited, a part of what we're doing. My goal is still to reach the lost. I'm an evangelist, and I still want to reach the lost. And maybe, just maybe, Sunday nights are better than Sunday mornings, especially for young people. Getting up in the morning on a Sunday is not what a young person likes to do. So maybe we can reach young people more on a Sunday night. So anyway, thank you for joining us. I'll see many of you tomorrow, hopefully at 10 o'clock for our Collision message. And then the rest of you, I'll see Monday morning in our daily devotion. We'll keep on doing these devotions regardless of what happens. God bless you all. Thank you for watching. Share it if it means something to you. Have a great, great weekend.